Aja. Welcome back to my channel. And if you haven't been here before, I make videos about changing or trying something new to help out adults who are looking to have a change or pivot in life and might be feeling some hesitation or fear or worry. I make videos for you so that you will go ahead and try that thing. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, go ahead and give me a like and think about subscribing. And let's get into today's video. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about contracts for teaching in Korea, for teaching English in Korea. Okay, I want to help you guys pick out good contracts. I want to make sure that you get yourself into a good situation. So if you listen to my steps, you should be able to eliminate all of the crappy contracts and make sure that you're in a good situation. Or I at least want to make sure that even if your job doesn't turn out the way that you want it to be, it won't be because of the contract. So we're going to discuss different things that you need to look for, comb for, look through that contract front and back and check for these things, okay? I have a list of 10. I will be referring to my notes a few times because I want to make sure that I talk about everything that is important. These things are not necessarily in order of importance. It's just 10 things that I think are important for you to look for in a contract, specifically in a Hagwon contract. Because, disclaimer, if it's a public school, the contract is already good. Or about as good as it's going to get. The only thing there is to look out for really in a public school is one, how much are you getting paid? If you're comfortable with that amount, cool. If you're not, move along. And two, how is your housing going to be done? Are you finding your own housing or are they providing housing for you, and how? So if you've got those two things, if you've watched out for those two things on your contract, then your public school contract is good. And I feel confident saying that because all public school contracts are pretty much the same almost. They're organized by the government, so they have certain rules and regulations they have to follow. Some of them do have more vacation days than others, but it's never as critical as Hagwon contracts can be. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on in today's video. Hagwon contracts and the really nitty-gritty things to look for. You really don't have to look that hard when it comes to public school contracts. Okay, so the first thing that I thought of is avoid any contract where they are not providing pension. If they say we don't do pension or we're not paying into pension, pension's not part of the deal and it's nowhere to be seen in your contract, just avoid that. Don't go there at all. Why? Because pension is actually legally required. They are legally required to pay into your pension. If they're not going to pay into your pension, that means they don't have you registered as a native English teacher. They probably have you registered as an independent contractor, and that is going to affect a bunch of other stuff that's also not beneficial for you. Just stay far away from any company that wants to register you as an independent contractor, and stay far away from contracts where they're not trying to pay into your pension. Number 2. So this one is very important. Make sure that you pay close attention to this in your contract because this is going to affect your quality of life, okay, in that job. This is going to be the difference between you being miserable and okay, horribly overworked, and fine. Okay, this is going to be a big difference. And that is, what does the word hours mean in the contract? Okay, because it's going to make a big difference between if they mean, you're working 8 hours a day as in 8 classes or 8 hours a day as in 8 clock hours. For example, let's say a class is actually 40 minutes long and they mean 8 classes in a day. 40 minutes times 8 is 320 minutes, I believe. Divided by 60. That is 5 clock hours and 20 minutes. 5 clock hours and 20 minutes. So I'm sure you guys can understand how 5 hours and 20 minutes is a big difference to 8 full hours, right? And how teaching 8 classes is bearable and teaching 8 clock hours is not bearable. 8 actual hours in a day would be way too much. And you need to understand how those hours are calculated when it comes to overtime as well. Because, big surprise, you're going to have overtime sometimes, probably, if you work in a hagwon. So if overtime means putting in 40 clock hours and beyond, it's going to take a lot of work before you actually reach overtime pay. Versus 40 teaching hours, 40 periods. It's not as far-fetched, right? It's not as impossible to reach that and then start getting paid for overtime. This also is very important when it comes to your breaks and your lunchtime, because there are some jobs who will try and trick you. They'll tell you you're going to have 2 hours of prep in a day and 1 hour for lunch. And then you find out that you don't actually have 2 hours of prep. You have 2 periods of prep. And is it 1 actual clock hour for lunch, or is it 1 40-minute period? And sometimes they'll mix those two types of language in the contract and just change it arbitrarily to suit their own wants. So sometimes they will use teaching hours when it comes to your breaks and your prep time, and then they'll use clock hours when it comes to calculating whether or not you get overtime pay. So make sure you know and identify what is meant by the word hours. Make them write it down. Make them put it in the contract so it's very clear, so that you don't get tricked and you don't end up working too hard. And that transitions really smoothly into number 3, which is for every 8 hours of work, you get 1 hour of break. Make sure that they give you that hour consecutively, because some jobs will really try it. They be trying it. Some jobs will try and trick you. They'll give you 5 or 10-minute breaks in between classes, and when you add up all those 5 and 10-minute breaks together, what do you get? An hour. And so they don't think they owe you a lunch break or a dinner break, depending on what time of day you work. So don't let that happen to you. Number 4, are you getting a housing allowance? Or are they providing your housing? And check the wording on that very carefully, because personally I got into a contract once where the contract said that they would be providing housing worth up to 400,000 won. I believed that they would provide me housing and the rent on that housing would be 400,000 won. That makes perfect sense, right? That makes sense. That's what it sounds like, right? No. They had me at a place that cost 500,000 won. But they paid 400,000, then I had to pay 100,000 won from my own paycheck every month. And that's not fair, because that's not what I thought I was signing up for. In fact, I specifically remember saying, are you providing housing or am I paying for my housing? If I'm giving you 2 options and you pick one, then it should only be that one, right? If you say you're paying for my housing, then you're paying for my housing. Then that means I shouldn't have to pay for it. But that's not what happened. So don't be like me. Make sure you read that carefully and make sure that it actually says that they're providing your housing for free at no additional cost to you, or you're paying your housing allowance. Now understand that even if they are providing your housing, you're still going to have bills and you're responsible for your bills. You know, there might be a maintenance fee, elevator, gas bill, light bill, all of those, water. Those bills are still your responsibility. But the rent itself, if they say that they're paying it, make sure they're paying all of it. And furthermore, if they're the ones picking out your housing, then you need to see it before you sign that contract, okay? Make sure you see the place and are comfortable with the conditions before you sign the contract. Number 5, medical insurance. This kind of goes along with number 1. Some companies are going to try not to pay into your medical insurance. So the way the medical insurance works, first of all, it's required by law. You have to have medical insurance. Your employer should pay half and you should pay half. And if your employer isn't paying, then that means you're required to pay all of it. That's really not fair now, is it? So just make sure your employer is going to pay half. Make sure it's in the contract, and then make sure they've actually done it when the time comes. Number 6. The standard amount of vacation days in most Hagwon contracts is 10 vacation days per year. This should be 5 designated days in the summer and 5 designated days in the winter. So 1 week here and 1 week there. But some companies will try and say that your red days, aka national holidays, count as part of your vacation. Don't let them do that to you, okay? Make sure that the contract specifically states that you get the national holidays off, as well as 10 additional vacation days. If you are agreeing to a contract that gives you less than 10 days of vacation per year, honey, they got you. And take it from me, because I have done that. Don't do that. If we're honest with ourselves, 10 days is not enough. But less than 10 days? Come on now. Don't let them do that to you. Don't let them do that to you. Number 7, sick days. Do you have any? How many? Is it enough for you? And what does it entail? Check at the wording of the contract, okay? Because you might be required to pay your substitute, but you also might not be getting paid for not showing up. So you need to make sure that in your contract, 1, that your contract allows for you to continue being paid even though you're sick. And 2, does it allow for you to choose your own substitute, or do you need one provided by the company? And 3, do you have to pay your substitute? And if so, what is the standard rate, or how do you work that out? These are things you want to know before you sign the contract. Because for example, I have had a job where I was so sick. I was actually at work, and was pre-COVID times. I was so sick that my boss told me to go to the hospital. She told me to leave and go to the hospital, and that she would have the new guy cover my classes. The new guy didn't have any other classes. He had to be there anyway, and he was being paid to be there anyway. So technically, no money should have come out of my pay to pay him, because it didn't cost anyone anything. But she still made me pay him. Because why? Because it's their policy to pay their subs, regardless of the fact that it didn't cost the company anything. It's their policy that if a person is sick, they have to pay their substitute. So that was crappy. I would have just stayed at work and suffered, which is sad, really, really sad. But that's what I would have done if I knew that they were going to try and steal more of my money. So don't make the mistakes that I make. And also, check on how the sick days work for that company anyway, because, for example, if you were to catch COVID and be out of commission for 2 weeks, what happens in that case? Do they just fire you? Do you really have to pay 2 weeks of a sub? Because let me tell you right now, subs are more expensive than we are. You cannot afford a sub for 2 weeks. I can tell you that right now. If you're on a teacher's salary in Korea, you cannot afford to pay your sub for 2 weeks straight. So check on that. What am I on? I'm on number 8. Number 8. Is there any mandatory weekend or holiday work? Are they going to make you come in on Saturdays, essentially? It's actually not strange to have to come in on some Saturdays. once or twice per year if there's like a major festival or if there's a major thing going on. This can even happen at private schools and even at public schools on occasion. So there might be like, for example, a field trip to Everland on a Saturday. And if the company's paying for it, like, it might be mandatory, you might have to go. But it's not the end of the world. As long as it's not like a full day's work, which Saturdays usually are not a full day's work. It's usually a shorter day's work. And as long as it's rare, I'm just letting you know that it's not unusual. You don't have to agree to it though. You can make sure it's in your contract that you don't work any weekends ever, right? Maybe you have religious reasons, or maybe you just don't wanna. But check if it's in there. Check if it's required on occasion, or if they have some like iffy wording like your boss can change your working hours at any time, right? You might want to negotiate to have that removed from the contract, or you might not be able to. So I just want that to be something that you look out for. Ask about it. Make sure if there are any Saturdays involved in your contract. Number 9, when is payday? So for my school right now, for example, it's a public school, I get paid on the 17th of every month. And if the 17th falls on a Saturday or Sunday, then I will get paid on the preceding Friday. And usually the time of day is like early afternoon, so like 1 or 2 p.m. is when the money enters my bank account. But if it hits 4:30, my off time, and I still haven't been paid, I'll be making a ruckus. No, not really. I don't make a ruckus. It doesn't usually happen. But if it did happen, I would just notify them, and then they would fix it just like that. But some hagwons are not that way. Some hagwons, for example, will pay you the following Monday as opposed to the preceding Friday. And some hagwons will pay you at any time of day that they please. It's really whatever they feel like it. It might be after you already went home from work, even though you need to get groceries and your bank account is on zero. It could happen. It has happened to some people. You know, I just don't want you guys to experience what I've experienced, okay? I'm trying to help you. So check on that. When is payday? What time is payday? Make them put it in the contract if that will make you feel more comfortable. And finally, number 10. Make them erase or scratch out, or just don't accept any contract that has wording in it that is going to use pay deductions as a punishment, because that's illegal. So if they're like,
if you miss more than XYZ amount of days, you will have to pay.
If they're like,
if you quit your contract early, you will have to reimburse. If you have certain kind of thing happen, XYZ, then they're going to withhold your payment. They're not going to pay you for any reason.
it's a no from me, because it's illegal. It's illegal. They can't take money out of your paycheck for anything other than taxes and health insurance without your permission. Everything else needs to be with your permission. And if they have the wording to do that in your contract, then best believe they don't have your monetary interests at heart. Like, if the contract says that in the first place, they maybe can't be trusted. But maybe it's an old contract, they didn't know, the laws have changed, I don't know. But I would beware. I would be wary of any place that threatens your paycheck for any reason. If you do something that requires some kind of punishment, some kind of punitive action, the proper punitive action is first a warning, then a written warning, and then finally just fired. Okay, they can fire you. Being fired is acceptable, but stealing your money, don't let them do it. I'm not gonna lie, there are more things. There are actually more things that you maybe should look out for in a contract, but most of those are common sense things. I believe in you and your ability to figure out if it makes sense, if it seems right to you. If not, Google it. But I think this is a pretty comprehensive list of red flags and things to look out for in your Hagwon contract. And once again, if you're looking at a public school or a private school, you can look for all these things as well. Actually, private schools, you should look. You should look for all these things as well because they're not government operated. If you're looking at a public school, they are government operated. You're gonna probably be getting way more vacation time than this. You're gonna probably be getting way more benefits than this in many ways. You won't have to worry about pension, health insurance, severance pay. All that stuff is gonna be in the contract already. But Hagwons, you gotta be careful. You gotta check and double check and ask a friend too, just in case you missed something. I hope this video wasn't too boring, and I hope it was helpful to you because I did do quite a deal of research looking on multiple websites trying to find what it is that you should look for. Some of these things I kind of wish I had seen before I signed my Hagwon contracts of the past, but don't even worry about it because I'm at a public school now and I'm much happier. So yeah, if you watch this video to the end, I gotta say, it's not because you're that into the legal process, okay? It's because of me. You like me. Admit you like me. By liking me. And subscribe. Go ahead and join so that you can see my next video and so that you can suggest more content, the kind of content that you want to watch from me, and I'll give it to you. So, bye. This is the part where I normally do a little dance or I sing or something, and 2 videos pop up that you should watch next, and then you pick one. But I'm really tired. I'm actually exhausted, so I don't really feel like dancing, so just click it anyway.